You skipped it, you dissed it, you said it's a bore. But what if that film's got a little bit more? What if I don't like it? What if it's bad? What if it's awkward or lazy or sad? But what if it's genius, a total surprise? What if it's gold when I open my eyes? We're watching the films you love to avoid. Now sit down and deal with your cinephile void. What if I don't like it? Let's give it a spin. You might hate it or love it. Let's dive right in.
What if you're one of those people who's never seen Interstellar? Because you decided it's probably not for you. That's kind of interesting, because this isn't some obscure movie that slipped past people. It's one of the most talked about sci-fi films of the last 20 years. So if you avoided it for nearly a decade, there's probably a reason. Maybe it's the runtime. Nearly 3 hours is a real ask. Maybe it's Christopher Nolan, because Nolan is one of those directors where his reputation and established work can influence a person more than even the story of the film they're about to see. And Interstellar gets talked about like it is visionary, life-changing, one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. And that kind of hype doesn't always make something inviting. Sometimes it can do the opposite. Maybe you're thinking you won't get it, or that everyone else is going to understand it while you're stuck trying to catch up. Or maybe you're just skeptical of anything that's been put on that kind of pedestal. Then, of course, there's the sci-fi of it all. The wormholes, the black holes, the relativity, the time dilation, higher dimensions. For some people, that is very exciting. For others, it can immediately feel like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I didn't really want to do homework with my movie. And of course, there's so much hype coming from a sometimes uninviting fan base of Nolan film bros who call this one of the greatest films ever made. The more you hear that, the easier it is to think, yeah, that is an impossibly high standard to go into a movie with, so why bother? But here's the thing. None of those reasons are wrong. It is long, it is ambitious, it does deal with complex scientific ideas. And sure, it won't work for everyone. But the reason it's still here, still being talked about all of these years later, isn't just the ideas, it's the craft. This is a movie made at a moment when a lot of big sci-fi was going fully digital. And instead, Nolan does a wonderful job of synthesizing practical effects and CGI. We have real sets, real locations, physical scale you can actually feel that is aided by thoughtful computer graphics. Especially Gargantua, the black hole. Instead of aiming simply for something that looked cool, this scene was built in collaboration with physicist Kip Thorne to visualize what these concepts might actually look like. And amazingly, the marriage of these two tools in this manner allowed the film's beautiful IMAX images to still hold up more than a decade later. Plus, there's Hans Zimmer's score. That church organ isn't just like lying on top of the film like a dead weight. It's breathing life into it. It is impossible to ignore and yet intimate at the same time. But here's what gets lost in a lot of this science and production talk. Sure, it's fun to debate the physics, the logic, the timelines. But that's not what most audiences leave this film feeling most affected by. Instead, they remember how it felt to experience all of this cinematic magic without knowing the wizardry behind it. This allows them to be immersed in a story about love and regret and sacrifice and time, moving in a way that you can't control no matter how badly you want to. So if you've avoided Interstellar because you felt it might be too long or too complicated or too overhyped or just not your thing, that hesitation makes sense. But it might not be a reason to skip it. Because under everything else, it's not just an incredibly accurate science fiction movie. It's a wonderful movie about what it costs to leave someone you love and what it means when you can't get that time back. Welcome to the episode, everybody. I am psyched to get to talk about a movie that you may have seen me on other podcasts talking about already. That's how much I love this movie. So when our guest came and told me, you know what, I haven't seen Interstellar, I said, well, you're coming on the podcast. Today we have Riley. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun. I've always watched some episodes and I love the format. So I'm excited to watch a movie I haven't seen before and B, like, talk about it. So I'm excited.
It's not often that a guest picks a movie where I'm just like, we're good. You're gonna like this movie. You can't hate this movie. I'm so sorry. This is really one of those, especially because if a guest is a filmmaker, the construction on this is like haute couture, like it's well put together. So even if you're like the narrative was stupid, it's impossible to miss the craft that went into this.
Yeah, and you could say that with every movie. In my opinion, I think there is no such thing as like, unless there's obvious for me, there's lines of like moral lines that I cannot cross where I can say this is a good movie. But generally speaking, about like the average good filmmaking experience, whether behind the scenes or after with the people involved, I don't think there's narratively or instinctively something bad that counts as a bad movie. I think every movie has intrinsic value. I used to have like a giant Hellraiser poster over here. I love like really crazy, weird movies. I have an Event Horizon movie poster over there. It's I love movies that even if it's like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, right? Or something as profound as like The Godfather or something. Every movie has merit, and every I like to think every movie out there, there's one person who that's their favorite movie of all time. So even if a movie isn't like my thing, I know it's not going to be, even if it's objectively bad, even if I don't like it, I think that's okay because movies are so special and important to everyone. So it's
Wow.
beautiful.
That's a beautiful way to think about it as a filmmaker. Absolutely. All those movies are great movies that you've mentioned. I have a pinhead latex like head costume thing that it was like on clearance at Spencer's and I couldn't pass it up. And Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is a great example of like really good camp that still gets with you. I Before we even jump into our first part of the segment, I did watch a movie yesterday immediately after, no, 2 days ago, immediately after finishing Interstellar.
I did
I
too.
what did you watch?
I watched the Michael Jackson biopic.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I watched a 1986 Russian, like Soviet sci-fi film about these two Russian guys who get sent to a planet that's built on capitalism called Kinzaza. Holy, it's like the lowest budget, should be crappy, really so bizarre, like Gilliam level bizarre, but it was beautiful. And so like I watched this really really low budget film and then this really really high budget film, and they're both sci-fi, and you're right, you could, it's hard to hate either of those films because there's so much passion going in. You can tell that the filmmakers cared about the experience.
Yeah. I kind of had the opposite reaction with Michael. I going from something that with Nolan you have writing that's very well thought out and very well
Yeah.
planned and everything from A to B, that is his entire vision. And for context, I really enjoy Antoine Fuqua's work. He's the director
Mm-hmm.
of Michael. He is an incredible
Mm-hmm.
like visual director, and you can tell, and there's these moments where there's like the Jackson estate and there's these different parts that, since Michael Jackson is such a huge deal, that you can't really do everything you want, and you have to make these huge,
Mm-hmm.
like, apparently the entire third act of the movie, it ends on bad spoilers, it ends on the song Bad. They don't play Smooth Criminal. They don't even play my favorite Michael Jackson song, which is insane. It's Dirty Diana. But and it's so weird. It's so interesting to like watch a movie that has complete creative control versus a movie with zero creative control. It was so interesting to see that dichotomy. I also Interstellar was very intelligent, and I wanted to like shut off my brain, and I was like, I want to listen to Michael Jackson music for like 2 hours, and it was nice for that. It was good for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I walked backwards into that Russian movie because a friend came over and he's very good at getting super obscure movies.
Yeah.
And it didn't tell me anything about that movie. He was just like, "We're going to put this on," and so I didn't realize how well it wound up pairing. But yeah, it was a little bizarre. You never walked out of a movie? You like you'll watch anything.
Yeah, I'll watch anything. I mean, there's been times I've like turned off a movie because I'm
Okay.
like, if I'm at home. But whenever I'm at a theater, I've never walked out of a movie. It's because I grew up in Texas, and my dad took me to film festivals, and the creators were always there. And so if you walked out of a movie, you are basically going up to the chef and throwing the plate on, you know? You can hate the movie. I used to hang around these like my dad's friends who used to go to this film festival, and we might hate the movie, but we'll see it out till the credits roll. But what was more interesting about it too was they have to go up in front of everyone and ask questions. And if the movie's bad and everyone knows it, like there's this weird feeling of the questions are asked are like, so why did you make these decisions? And then you can walk out of the theater, go outside for the break in between the film festival runs, and you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense why the movie was like that. So yeah, no, I'll never walk out of an experience. I don't think I've
Mm-hmm.
ever have, unless if it's for like legitimate like if I'm at a drive-through and I'm like, oh shit, I have to go home right now. So an
Yeah,
emergency happened.
emergency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never walked out of a movie because it's even if I don't like it, I think it's more compelling, especially on the internet. There's a lot of people who like claim they've like watched movies and they've claimed on like they have opinions, but they've never watched the movie. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, at least I have the merit of saying I've seen the whole thing. I had to endure the whole thing, and these are my opinions about it. But also on top of that, it's like every movie is special, and then maybe there's something at the ending that's the last shot of the movie that gives like semblance to why someone loves that movie, and I can't take that away from someone. So I feel like that's why I keep watching.
Fair. There's a like sunken costs fallacy where you're just like, I've already watched
I'm
this
so
much. I
invested.
do need to. I can't tell you how many times, especially because when you start making films and you've seen as many films as we have, you know exactly where a film is going. But I'll be like, I'm gonna keep watching to see if they do. And so many times I'm just like, fuck this guy. It went right where hour of my life. I've only walked out of one movie, and it was when I was 13, and I was super opinionated. I
Yeah,
walked out of You've Got Mail
really, the one with Tom Hanks
and Meg Ryan.
and Meg Ryan about
Yeah,
the bookstore and the email.
yeah, yeah.
I
I was there with friends, and I like sat in the lobby. I was like, I would rather stare at my shoes. I was so
God,
mad at that movie. If Meg Ryan had been in the back, I would have probably been like, screw you and screw this movie. I was so mad. I don't know. And I've never watched the rest of it.
that's
I
so
have
weird
a
because
hard time with rom-coms.
I feel weird about doing like because I've seen a lot of I remember being 13. Like I remember seeing the movie yesterday and Batman v Superman day of and the Power Rangers movie that came out, and I was like I remember watching those movies and being like I'm not having a good time. I'm not enjoying this at all. And I felt I'm a very I don't know. I feel I'm very socially anxious. So if I'm around a group of people or something and I'm like I feel uncomfortable even just going up to go to the bathroom. So I feel uncomfortable just walking out of a movie and making it a huge problem. I like I might as well see how it ends and then like actually have legitimate. So I guess I've never. I a movie has to be. I feel like a movie has to be like really really like it has to like really either bother me or like not. I'm not saying like trigger or like offend me or like something that's like oh this is just like really 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 bad or like
Mhm.
something where it's or if they, the movie's like flashing lights for like 30 minutes. I don't have like epilepsy, but it's like when I have a headache, I might have to do that. But like
Yeah.
I've never walked out of a movie.
Yeah,
It's tough.
I've had to remove myself for a couple of movies because of flashing lights because of my migraine condition. And I can't fault a movie for that entirely. Or sometimes I just sat too close because of seat
Yeah.
availability, although that
Cause,
hasn't
cause
happened
sometimes
lately.
it's like warranted. I think like
Yeah.
Spider-Verse is like very like, oh, there's flashing lights in this movie, but it's like it's for a period where it almost gets to me, but it's like, oh, this
Hmm.
is really cool. I get why you did this because it's visually
Hmm.
so striking, and a lot of anime is like that too, where there's a lot of flashing lights, and you're like,
Touche.
yeah, this is an art style, and this is some people can really handle it, the stimulation, and some people can't. And I understand. That's why I
Hmm.
understand when people hate movies and people love movies. So it's
Hmm.
movies are just awesome. They're great.
You bring up a really interesting point, though, with regards to the threshold of like when something is triggering or too much for me, I want to leave a movie, and
Yeah,
that may not be the best choice. Like this, I usually do. Recently, I saw, and this will be a spoiler, but not entirely. This is a kind of spoiler I feel like people honestly should have about this movie. I went and I saw Obsession. Did you see it
Yeah,
yet?
I watched Obsession too. Yeah,
Perfect.
are you talking about the cat?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have a thing where like I can't watch movies where there are violence to animals in them or dead animals shown that
yeah,
graphically. It's a personal thing and it's not like like the thing is that this movie used it so purposefully for the narrative that
yeah.
it's intentional and it still was incredibly triggering, but if I had walked out, I would have missed out on a really well composed movie. That movie made me feel so
Yeah.
awful the whole time.
I
It was like Bo
that
is
was the first
afraid.
that was the first time in a couple years where I walked out of a movie and I saw it with my partner. I dropped her off and then I was driving home and I was just like looking at the side of my mirror and I was like freaked out and I was disgusted because there's a scene with a car and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like horrified." That was the first time I felt like really uneasy and I had to text like my friends and stuff about it after because I was like, I just saw Obsession. It's so, and I think that's good, but horror's in that weird line of like what you can and can't handle. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's strange.
That's why I like space horror because it's like
Space
I'm
Horror's
never going to be
awesome.
in space. Fuck this. I don't have to go home tonight and be like, oh, like that movie was traumatizing. And you have to say, like, what an interesting thing to be able to reach through the screen and affect your audience that much, but in such a like, I don't like that flavor sort of way.
It's interesting because it's like I used to so for like a story time, I used to hate horror for a lot of my life until I turned like 16. So for 16 years of my life, I could not watch horror. It was mainly because I was just in a very weird household where I was living in a place where life was always scary and I didn't
Mm,
like being scared. So I liked the comfort of action movies. I liked the comfort of like, like kids movies and anime and stuff because it was so detached from it. And when
hmm
my dad, I started living with my dad, and we started talking about like he wanted to get into horror movies because he loves horror. He was like, "Well, it's a safe way where you can sit down at your home or sit down in a theater and experience very horrifying things." And he got me into it by watching these action horror movies, but then we got into like a little bit scarier ideas. And then when he showed me like Texas Chainsaw and Nightmare on Elm Street, I was like, I finally realized, it clicked with me. Oh, this is a way I can see all these violent things, see all these horrifying things, and not think they're real. And I can like explore them and process them. And that's when I got really into horror for a little bit. And that's why I like made horror movies for a minute. It was fun.
That's really the reason I think psychologically the genre exists. There's a really famous special effects artist called his name is Tom Savini, who was in Vietnam and he helped deal with what he saw by using that as a like example for the gore, and is part of the reason why he does such realistic incredible special effects is because he did actually experience that. For us as the audience, it gives us a chance to like be in a demo of a bad situation, and then when it's done, let it go. And so if it did actually happen to us, we would have had a prior experience to draw on. It's like pattern recognition.
It's the equivalent of like, I get why people like horror or like murder mystery podcasts. And like, yeah, it's the equivalent of, it's the same like itch in your brain, I'd say, I'd
Yeah,
argue.
absolutely. So for our audience who's been listening to us talk now for about 15 minutes because we just went off the out the gate here, we met because you are a filmmaker and you had a film in the horror section of the East Hampton Film Festival. I do the talkbacks for that every year because I'm obviously a big horror fan. Let's talk a little bit more about your filmmaking journey. When did you know you wanted to become a filmmaker?
So, like I said, I was 16
Hmm
and I was dead set on being a YouTuber. You can actually, if you go onto my filmmaking YouTube page and you scroll back to the very beginning, you're gonna see 13-year-old me try to be a YouTuber so hard, and it's so bad. But I loved YouTube. I grew up on it. I watched videos, and I wanted to be like a comedy YouTuber, and it wasn't really working out. And I remember just feeling like so deflated and being like, I'm not. It wasn't scratching the right itch. And on top of that, I was in bands. I was producing music. I was being a musician. And I was like, none of these are like satisfying to me. And my dad was like, well, because my dad's a guitarist and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So that's why I learned guitar and I became a musician. And
Okay.
he's like, well, Riley, you love watching movies and you love talking about movies so much. Well, maybe we should like think about it. And I was like, I can't make movies. You kidding me? Like, people who make movies are rich and I'm not rich. And he was like, okay. So he took me to my very first film festival and it was the most amazing experience because these people in Austin has a huge film scene, by the way.
Boy, and
It's
how, yeah.
amazing. So we went to a horror specific festival, and I remember just going out of that. And after seeing these amazing movies, I got to talk to all these filmmakers because they were there. They were all smoking cigarettes and stuff, and I was like 16. I was so shy, but it was so awesome to see that. And then I remember going home and being like, Dad, I know I want to do this. So in high school, I made a short film every single like semester. I made so many short films, and then like I went to college, and every semester we tried to make a short film, and that led me to learning new things, getting new gear, adding new elements, and I guess that led up into like submitting to festivals and stuff. So I think now I should look at it. I think I have about 15 short films I made.
Damn, you do film fast.
I do.
I'm
I
always impressed by that.
Thank you. No, yeah, I have 14 short films out right now, and number 14 was the one that you did the talkback for Mercy, Queen of the Undead at
Hmm.
East Hampton,
Hmm.
and that was a zombie movie. So like in prior, I had made like a horror movie before. It was called The Art of Descent, and that was like a
Hmm.
Twilight Zone inspired called Cthulhu horror movie. And then before
Nice.
that, I made a like a Scream parody called Open and Kill. And then before that, I made like a romance horror movie called Die Together. And it was just like when I was making horror, I remember just being like, I'm really obsessed with Sam Raimi, so I just wanted to see like how kooky and crazy I can get with my ideas. And I wrote the scripts at work at on like receipt cards, and I remember writing the zombie movie on receipt cards, and I got it done. I filmed it in last year, so 2025. I filmed it October 1st. Um, I edited it in November, and I got it done in December, submitting for East Hampton in time, which was really good.
Beautiful.
But it was really fun. It was a grand old time. And
Mhm.
I guess my filmmaking journey has just been like, oh, I really I don't know if I should make movies. I'm gonna make movies now, and I've just been made that my whole personality. So now all I do is think about making movies, and I like making movies. So yeah,
Uh, was that film fest in Austin Fantastic Fest?
it was not Fantastic
Okay.
Fest, and I have a story about that. So Fantastic Fest is expensive. Fantastic Fest in my is like the modern the like New England equivalent of the Boston Film Festival, right? Or
Hmm.
like I don't know what the big one is in New York, the TIFFs.
Like Tribeca or
Yeah,
something.
Tribeca. We don't. So that's the big one. Fantastic Fest is where John Wick shows. Is where Jack Black shows up. I go to one called Otherworlds, which is a subset group of people, horror and sci-fi fans in Fantastic Fest, who believe that Fantastic Fest got a little too mainstream and
Hmm.
was kind of going against the idea of local filmmakers aren't being supported enough, and also you need to have $1 billion movie just to get into Fantastic, because Fantastic is also a perfect way for distribution now. Fantastic Fest is also
Yeah.
the core to get to the Oscars. If you want theatrical distribution, you go through Fantastic Fest. Now, Otherworlds is a smaller subset, but they still keep that level of prestige from Fantastic Fest. So you're still getting people who maybe are a little bit more indie, but still create amazing works. And they'll like if you get a film into Fantastic Fest, they'll fly you out, they'll have interviews with you, they'll give you food, and it's an incredible time and an incredible community. And their whole thing is they have a horror section, they have a sci-fi section. That's it. They and they just try to show for 4 days as much as they can. And it's at this really nice movie theater, and it was like, and I we went there like 2 years, and it was so amazing. It was a great
Awesome.
experience. I hate to gush, but
Jeez.
if you're in Austin, go to
Yeah.
Other Worlds, because I can't help but support them enough.
Straight up.
My dream is to get a short film in there. That's one of my dreams.
All right. As with every episode, when we mention cool stuff like this, you'll see in the liner notes, we'll definitely put a link to the website. So if you're interested in taking a look at them, maybe you're in Austin, you want to go there, maybe you're thinking about going to Austin, these are great reasons why. I have a couple of friends who are from that area, who've lived in that area, and they talk about how great it is. It's like a little tiny area of immense art inside
It's
a very large state.
it's weird because it's simultaneously really cool, but it's also super intimidating. And that's what's weird, because I came from Texas to Massachusetts, and it's very strange of like the difference, because there was this very big thick layer of competitiveness, because there is Netflix there is a Shutter who is you're trying to get your film sold.
Oh my God.
You're trying to get all this, it's the layer of oh gosh, I just spent all my money on this movie. We got to make it work. And over here, it's a lot more grassroots, and it's a lot more
Yeah.
it's the arts about it, and I think that's what's really neat about the stuff up here. It was a very weird switch from, I guess that's what makes me, I guess, special, I guess, or not special, but I guess like different up here is that I have the work mindset of, oh, I have to be grinding like Austin, and then now I'm up here, so it's very interesting. It's different but really cool.
What brought you up here from there?
College. And my parents
College.
were moving up here, and I didn't want to be far away from them. So I
Fair
moved
enough.
up here and I went to Westfield State University. I graduated last month, so I'm very happy about that. Communications major.
Yes, I got to go see ISO, which was your like thesis film or
That
final
was my debut
project.
feature film. Yes. My de-
Yeah.
for my senior thesis, I wanted like 4 credits, and I was like, oh, it would be great if I could take one less class, and I want to make a feature film. And
Yeah.
I was where I really wanted my dream to be like this hour long feature film, and I got to make it. It was really cool. I think it cost like $3,000. We got stunt actors from Boston. It's currently being like scored now, and we're doing like we're gonna do a festival run, and then we're gonna try to maybe get it on streaming, but we might just put it on YouTube. But it was really cool because I've made like 14 short films, and I was like, man, making an hour thing would be so cool. And I learned a lot about myself in that, because we filmed it. I wrote it in a month, and then the next month we funded it, and then in March, every single weekend, like Friday through Monday, I would just film every single weekend, and it was stressful. It was intensive. It was low budget, but it was like, I after that I realized I was like, oh shoot, I want to be doing this, and it was really awesome. So it was fun, and also on top of that, it was college, so I could live near the sets, and I just felt like that was the best time to do it, so I didn't go too broke, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you also have access to the college's like tech, right? And
Yeah,
cameras
yeah.
and stuff like
I,
that.
I
That's
got
always the
I got gear and stuff, and that was
yeah.
nice. That was nice. It was like I didn't want to be the one who drops out of college and puts like 20 grand on a movie. I couldn't do that, so I was like, I'll make a small movie, hour-long movie, and this will be like my business card. And it so if you guys want to watch it, text me and I can send you like a private link. But yeah, it was an action movie inspired by like Cowboy Bebop. That's the best way I can pitch it. It's very
Yeah.
it's very strange. Like I can't describe it. It's weird. I don't know.
I definitely think that that is a great way to describe it. I enjoyed it very much. I
Thank you.
hope to see it in festival releases. I think what you've done is a great idea too, because a lot of people will ask me, like, I want to get into filmmaking. And they have this idea of it where it is joyful. We do it because we like it. But there is a grind, there is a lot of work, especially even just being an extra. There's the joke that most of what you do on set as an actor is just sit around and wait.
Yeah.
And if you're not into that, like you don't actually want to do this. So baptism by fire, if you under these conditions that are pretty good, the college is giving you the time. You have tons of actors who live nearby because you have a campus. If you can't make it work like this and it's hellish, maybe you
That's the
actually
thing
want to
too.
do
I
something else.
College
Yeah.
gives you so much free time. Like if you look at class periods and you look at the time, I'm like, I could be making, and that's what I realized when I was at college, when I once I figured out my days and stuff, and I stopped,
Yeah.
just like hanging out and partying every night. Sorry, like I realized I was like, oh, I can make like movies every semester. It was great, and I think that's where the work ethic comes into, is finding the time, finding, and also you do it not to get famous. You do it not to like, you do it because if you don't make the movie in your head, you're gonna go insane. And just telling people about it is driving you insane too. And that's
Yeah.
that's how I feel. I can't, because I can't pitch a movie to someone a billion times. I want to be like, just watch this, just watch it. So that's why I'll make something, whether it's like super low budget or super like trash or super like, even if it is really bad, I just like, this is the idea, this is the vision, and then maybe
Uh-huh.
more people will get in, and it's a cycle of more people get interested in the movie, and then we have more people who help on it. And
Mhm. I have a very firm belief in the make it exist, then make it good format. It's taken me a long time to get there. I think, especially if you have any kind of ADHD. You want to
Yeah.
make it perfect and then release it into the world. And that's just never going to produce a lot of stuff. And also, like, I think you should be doing this if you would be doing it. I think you should be doing this no matter what kind of situation where, like,
Yeah.
if you're at work, like you were, and you're using every free second to write on the back of receipts, then yeah, you were going to do this regardless, so you might as well do this.
This is I can show you this right here. This is the script to my new short film. It's on a paper bag. This is what I did at work too. It's like it's really fun. I don't even know if I'm gonna film this one, but this is usually what it's a slow day. I will say this is a slow day at work, or like I'll write on this, and that's how I go at it.
Yeah, I also have a crazy clipboard situation going on for the animation that I'm working on right now with just like stupid frame rate like just like lunacies, the scribblings of a mad woman kind of feeling.
That's my room. That's the notebooks everywhere and scribbling, and
Lines.
that's the fun of it. I think that's like not to get onto the AI rant, but it's like the point of doing art is that it's hard, and the fun, it's the gratification, and that's like doing a sport. Like for example, I started taking kung fu last month. I started because Aizo's an action movie, and I looked at that movie, the action in Aizo. I was like, it could be better. So I started taking martial arts. I've never taken a martial art before besides some judo lessons. And I remember, and I hadn't done a like worked out in a while, and it's this feeling. It's exactly like art. It's painful. It hurts. It like whether not physically but emotionally, like when you go to like kung fu, you're like, I'm not good at this. Everyone else here is 13 years ahead of me. I'm so bad at this, and I'm so sore, and I'm so tired, and I can barely hit like the reps or the forms, but you do it anyways. And like writing's like that. You're not good at writing, but you still do it because once you get there, or once you do a kick, or once you get a short film written or done, it's the gratification, the feeling that all that hard work meant something is so awesome. And that's why AI feels weird, because you cut the fun part of slogging through and like the feelings you go through that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever played any of the games from the company From Software? The Dark Souls, Elden Ring,
I
Bloodborne?
I played like I played like an hour of Elden Ring, and I'm just really bad at video. I love video games. I'm really bad at them. So like there's no easy mode, and I'm just so I like it's
Well,
so hard.
that's the thing about From Software. Their creator, who made the Dark Souls universe, says that he's made it as a metaphor for depression, where every day you wake up and it's a little bit harder, but everything's vastly the same. So your character, every time you die, your health bar gets a little bit smaller, and you have to start all the way back from this one checkpoint and do everything over and over and over again. And they found that it's actually therapy for people because it shows them, trying and doing a thing that it was difficult, you can eventually succeed. And when you succeed, the amount of dopamine, the feedback that you get for doing something that was hard is so much better than just getting through it because it was easy.
Yeah, exactly. And
Like,
that's the beauty of like life. Live is to struggle, but is to overcome that struggle.
mhm,
Like pierce through
yeah.
the heavens.
I'm I'm a huge Dark Souls fan. I have a couple of different Dark Souls tattoos, so
I've noticed you're really excited about that A24 Elden Ring film. Yeah.
I have
I
a
see your post
relationship.
about it.
I have relationships with Alex Garland,
Yeah.
where he either does the most perfect thing I've ever seen, or I just want to smack a bitch. It's never in between, so we'll see. But like he has a history of doing things where he'll read the book that Annihilation was based on in one weekend, and then just write what he wants based on a dream. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
That's the Garland films I've watched. I'm just like I think that's how I feel about the Wachowskis too. That's how I'm like, this is either the coolest thing ever, or like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up, hold your horses. But yeah, it's a good time.
So let's launch into our three questions that we always ask to kind of get a little feel here.
Yeah.
Although we have a pretty big feel right now for you as a filmmaker, let's ask, what was the first movie you can remember seeing in a movie theater? Not the one that you were told was your first movie, the one that you remember seeing first?
Green Lantern. I got scared, and then we had to go see Cars 2. That's how bad at horror I was. The first 10 minutes of Green Lantern terrified me when I was 8, so we had to go see Cars 2, and that was my first movie theater experience.
Oh my God, that's Green Lantern with Ryan
Ryan Reynolds.
Reynolds,
Yes.
right? Oh,
Yes. Yes.
wow. I'm not even sure
I
I've
think
seen
that was
that
the first
one.
time I guess I walked out, but that was like cuz I was a child and I cried. I cried because Sinestro was really like the Yellow Lantern was really really scary and then he was like it's okay and my dad took me out and we just walked into Cars 2 and we just watched Cars 2 and it was an incredible experience and I loved it. I think my second movie experience that was like that was Jurassic World and I was really scared of the I had to cover my ears for the like dinosaur
Wow.
screams.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't like loud noises when I was a kid, but I'm cool with it now. But I think those
Also,
were my two early experiences of movies.
also, it's fair to note that the Jurassic Park T-Rex scream is layered existent animal noises, including like a tiger, a couple of things that instinctively on a scientific level we are built to have an emotional response to. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was that time of like peak like we're gonna bring the loudest freaking speakers to a movie theater and put them right next to a child's ear. Like that was the because we went to the theater with the ones with the speakers in the back of the seats, and and I remember just being like a little. It's funny because my grandmother she took me to see it and she bought me a Jurassic World shirt too, and I was like hiding in this new shirt that I bought. It was a grand old time. But yeah, those were my earliest theater experiences.
Yeah.
I used to go to before that I guess was drive-in theaters, but yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah,
is your first drive-in movie? I love drive-ins. They're hard to
I think
find.
my first drive-in experience was you know that Jim Carrey movie with the penguins? Wait, let me check. I need to
Is he
search for
playing a penguin or is he with
No.
other Mr.
He
Popper's penguins?
Yes, Mr. Popper's Penguins. That's the one. That
I
was
know
my
the
first
children's book it's based on.
that was my first movie theater drive-in theater experience and it was a double feature between it was that and Up. And I really love drive-in theaters. I used to go through a lot through COVID time,
Hmm.
mainly because I believe movie. I think, in my opinion, at least, a blockbuster movie or the drive-in movie is the perfect epitome of the like a Commonwealth art. It
Mm,
is not high art like theater. It is not as expensive as concerts. It is the like doll. I grew up in dollar movie stores and or dollar theaters where a movie was a theater, like a dollar, and
yeah.
like drive-in theaters were really inexpensive too. And like I guess that's why I it's hard for me. It hurts when like people like rip on like really expensive art that's supposed to be for the mass populace is because there's a lot of people who like aren't doing well financially and they have kids and they need to keep the kids entertained for 2 hours and drive-in theaters were the perfect example of that. It were the cheapest way to do it and it was the best way to I think at least they were the best form of like art for the people and art to entertain and that's why I guess like movies mean so much to me is because they are for everyone. Like a movie, some people like us, we revolve our whole lives around movies. Other people, movies revolve around people's lives, like a date night, right? Like a date between like a first date between someone who's going to get married is the movie isn't the special thing, it's their relationship. Or like let's fast forward until someone dies, like a grandparent showing their kid like a western that they loved as a child and that child loving that western right
Hmm.
before the grandparent dies. Like that's a beautiful experience too. Or a kid watching ET for the first time. There's something so beautiful about like those moments and that they're not mainly about the movie. They're about the experiences you share with other people and how they impact you and how they make you want to grow and change as a person, which is really neat. But that's my spiel about
Yeah.
drive-in movie theaters that I love.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly difficult to talk about movies without that being part of it. Like there's the criticism of the narrative and the structure and the way that the tools and the art are put together, but there always has to be a comment on the experience that the audience has, because if you make something like a Jodorowsky El Topo where you're just like, wow, that's all of it dialed to 11, but everybody in the audience is like, I don't understand what's going on and I hate this. Is that good? Is that what you should aim for? I don't
And
know.
that's the thing too. When if we're transitioning into Nolan, I watched this movie with my best friend Joey, and he loves Nolan. He is a Nolan super fan, and I was like thinking, I was like, I should invite him to watch this with me because he can like. And then after he talked to me about when he first saw it and what his thoughts on it were, mainly because if I can sit next to someone who absolutely loves this movie, I can get excited about it too, and I can have a differing opinion but a differing perspective. That's why I try to go into movies blind with zero expectation. And I think maybe that's why I don't I try not to watch movies that I'm like that are super hyped because I'm like, well, I want a balanced opinion and watching Joey get excited and then watching seeing people online's reactions to it and then it's made me formulate a really cool opinion about us Interstellar that I feel is like really well balanced and really well this is the movie that it is now and it's really nice. It's special to watch movies with people where that's their favorite movie of all time and it's nice.
Absolutely. Is there a movie like that for you that you've seen more than any other movie where you would be the perfect person to sit down with?
I feel like there is, but it's like I do that with my friends, so there's like a horror, but they're not like my favorite movie of all time. I mean, if someone would want to sit down with me and watch Pacific Rim, that'd be awesome. But because that's like my that I would say that's my favorite movie of all time. But I try to show movies that like people aren't used to watching. So like around Christmas time, what I like to do is I like to sit my friends down and I show them a movie called Anna and the Apocalypse, which is an
Yeah.
yeah, I show them that because it is a high school musical Christmas movie with zombies and there's action and there's comedy and there's so many layers to it. And they're like, Riley, this is the most batshit insane movie I've ever seen. And I'm like, you need to keep watching it because it's fun. Because I want, because I feel like there's a few movies that are so weird and out of there. Like Big Trouble in Little
Hmm.
China's like that, Event Horizon, In the Mouth of Madness are
Hmm.
like that. These and
Yeah.
Reanimator, there's Surf's Up. We'll throw Surf's Up in there too. There's all these movies that I feel like define who I am and define
Mhm.
that what I love and define me that have defined me as a person. And I feel like I just feel like if I show these people these movies that I love, maybe they'll understand why I am. It's hard to do that sometimes because the movies aren't super popular.
God.
Some of them are super popular, but other ones are like Riley, that's Pacific Rim. That's Guillermo del Toro's like not his best movie, and I'm like, but it's my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie.
For
but
somebody, it's going to be the movie Twilight. That's going to be their
exactly,
favorite movie.
exactly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
I've
okay.
seen all of those in theaters because a friend of mine really likes those stories and didn't have anyone to go with, so I was like, okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Horror musical is a real hard one to come at people with. Christmas themed horror musical, those are all of my like I hate Christmas movies and I hate musicals.
Anna
It's
and the
like
Apocalypse is great, though. It is great. I love Anna and the Apocalypse. It's so weird.
it is really weird. I have seen it. Not my cup of tea just because
That's
I
fine.
can't
Yeah,
I can't do high school musicals.
yeah.
I also had to watch it as a like 38-year-old, so like
That
might
makes
have might
sense.
have might
I
have missed me hard.
I saw it when I was like 17 and I was like I was a thespian and I was like this is the greatest thing ever. It ties my favorite things like horror movies and musicals together.
Hmm. Why didn't you see Interstellar until now?
I don't know. I was thinking about that. I knew that was the question because
It's
you
gonna
asked that
be,
to
yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
I was like, why did I not watch Interstellar? And I think it was mainly I don't want to offend anyone, but there's a type of like person that like surrounds Nolan's discography. There's a type of person that it's kind of like Snyder and Tarantino's discography too, where it's like it's not like
Film bro.
yeah, kind of. But it's like when people talk about like Nolan, especially, they're like this is the greatest filmmaker of all time. This is someone who is like literally like his inspiration is cultivating like the next generation of astrophysicists. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he is so
Mm-hmm.
smart. He's thinking, and I've seen Memento. I like Memento. I
Love
thought
it.
Inception is pretty cool. I saw Oppenheimer. It made me like fear for the world. And I'm gonna see the Odyssey because my friends want to see it. But I guess Interstellar was the big one where I was like, and Nolan's movies circa like post Batman is like always like I have to prepare for 3 hours and watch the most insane, and I have to be using my brain, and it's a very active experience with Nolan. And Interstellar was always the one that everyone was hyping that it was so sophisticated and no one got, and I was like, I like stupid movies. I'm probably not gonna get this movie at all. I'm not. It's like it's the weird thing of everyone framed it as the most intelligent piece of media ever, and I was like, you're right. I'm not intelligent. I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna go see it then. And also it was like I don't know. I missed it in theaters. I missed it like, and it seemed like such a big screen movie, and it was a big long movie. It's kind of like why I don't watch. Trying to think of another. It's like why I don't watch Avengers Endgame every day. It's 3 hours of my time. I have other things to do, you know. And sometimes the 3 hours is like you need a nap after it. You need to like sit with it after. It's a
Mm-hmm.
day to cut out, and I think that's why I didn't watch it. But
No.
Nolan Film Bros definitely made it. There was a large stint of my life where I was like, I'm anti-pretentious. I'm gonna watch all the anti-pretentious movies. I'm gonna live in camp. And I just never I skipped a bunch of like iconic movies.
Well, yeah, and like some of the iconic movies we had talked about, they're by directors that are now problematic. So it becomes very difficult with a film like The Usual Suspects, where like that's a tangibly good film, but both
Yeah.
the director and the lead actor have notorious pasts now, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be complicit in this.
Yeah.
So like at least Nolan is just a strange taste. Like I do agree with you. He clearly is operating on this high level and people really like him, but the way people like him makes you feel like pushed down by their
Yeah.
like, you
I th-
know?
but also, I don't know. So something that got me to really like Nolan recently is there's a
Mhm.
Colbert interview with him, and Colbert goes, "What's your favorite movies of all time?" You know,
Mhm.
obvious ones. And he goes, I really like the Fast and Furious movies. And I thought he was LARPing. I thought he was live action role playing. I thought he was like pretending to be in the Fast and Furious for the bit. And then he goes, and Colbert goes, I've only seen one. Is there like seven? And he's like, well, technically you should start with three because three is the best one. But it
And
goes,
it's
but
chronologically.
then he started explaining it chronological. And he's like, there's a second and five going on. It gets crazy, but I do enjoy it. And I go, oh, Nolan is like there's two wolves inside of Christopher Nolan in my belief. There's the action, awesome, let's do the craziest shit ever, and then on the other wolf is like we need to justify everything with like realistic, tangible science nerd stuff. And they are screaming at the two wolves are screaming inside of him, and that once I saw that interview clip of how much he loves the Fast and Furious movies, I was like, I understand Nolan now. I think I get his visual style, his taste in writing,
Mhm.
and I think like not taking him as seriously and being like, oh, this is a guy that likes like the cars, jumping from one building to another. I'm into it. Yeah,
Yeah, if he can throw Tokyo Drift in with one of the spaceships, he might.
he might.
Man, there's a part of me that's like, let him do one. Let him do one of
I
the
want him to do
fasts.
one so
I
bad.
want one so
God,
bad now. Like that
I
would
like
be mm.
it sucks because Tenet is supposed to be his like James Bond movie, and I'm like, please make an IMAX Fast and Furious movie about like race culture. That's so awesome. He would do such a good job. He would be so. Vin Diesel would never though. He'd be so mad. He'd be so
I
angry.
know.
He's
Yeah.
an angry
Well,
guy
it's okay. Maybe he'll die and they'll AI him and that'll be his estate will allow.
in another life.
So yeah, I definitely hear that. There is, especially with films like Inception and Tenant, there's this like, whoa, who won't even be like I hate spoiler alert, I hate Inception. It's a
Yeah,
movie I cannot stand to watch. When I saw it in theaters, it was so packed, I sat next to a complete stranger who spent the entire time, it's like a 25-year-old dude,
yeah.
turning to me and going, wait, what's going on? And if they literally drew on a whiteboard what was going on, motherfucker. And also, this is just completely stolen from the film Paprika. I have
Paprika, yeah.
no time for that kind of behavior, Christopher. You can write a good story, stop stealing.
It's
Same thing
also
for you. Yeah, same thing that happened to Perfect Blue, but another story.
yeah, that's how I feel like with the Matrix and stuff. And that's a good debate between like stealing from anime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's two notes I'll say about this is like one, stealing from anime. I don't think like Inception or The Matrix has like I don't think they really like steal. I think they're really inspired, and I think it's
Well, there's the shot for shot steal in
there is the
Inception.
shot for shot stealing, but I think there's the really interesting thing is I think I we've had this argument before of like I think anime has really cool things, and I think there should be Western adaptations, not like live action, but like inspiration. We should take a lot of stylistic things from anime to live action. And I think the only two people that really have understood the visual narrative and language of anime is people like Nolan and the Wachowskis. They are the only two who, especially like Speed Racer or hell, even like the jumbled upness of Oppenheimer is very anime and it's very cool. And like I think that's the thing with this Inception too is like or not Inception, Interstellar, because we're talking about Interstellar is I was watching the plot and I was like I called it halfway through like halfway through the movie I went, "Oh, so like the daughter's gonna he's gonna shoot himself into a black hole and he's gonna tell his daughter to like how to solve the gravity equation, right?"
The
And Joey
ghost
went,
is him, yeah.
"Yeah," I said, "The ghost is him, right?" And Joey went, "No." And I went, "Yeah, the ghost is him." And then I figured it out and it was great. And it was so easy. But I figured it out. And when people were talking about being, "Oh, this is the most sophisticated, smart," I was like, this is an anime concept you just need to say yes to. You don't sure Nolan likes to frame it in a lens of like this is reality. This could be the near distant future, but it's also just like the equivalent of getting the robot Shinji. It's the equivalent of you just need to say yes to the adventure and to the
Mm-hmm.
concept of the higher beings are humans in the future and they created a fifth dimension portal for him to create his dimension ghost portal, and you're like the circle is the circle is the circle, and you're just like, okay, yeah, sure. You know, it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to make sense technically. You don't have to actually it.
Which is what's fascinating because so there's so many bits to pull here. Let's start with the fact that this story isn't entirely Christopher Nolan's story. It says
It's his
Christopher Nolan and it says his brother
his
Jonathan?
brother. Yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah. It's still not entirely their story either.
Yeah.
This starts out as a treatment written by Kip Thorne, the astrophysicist, the theoretical physicist who did all the science that this is based on. It was brought to Paramount and purchased to become a Steven Spielberg film. They brought on Jonathan at the time to write this into a treatment that would have felt something like Close Encounters, which, you know, side note is funny because we're getting Disclosure Day, which is the like, it's not quite a sequel. It's in the universe of what would have happened
Close
after the
Encounters, yeah.
government covered up Close Encounters. So this was supposed to be a very Spielbergian film, and it had a full script that Jonathan was trying to get through, but Spielberg left Paramount to go and take his company DreamWorks over to Disney. And when he did that, he could no longer work on Interstellar. It
Yeah.
sits there with Jonathan for a while, and then Jonathan convinces Christopher to direct it with him, which causes a really interesting thing because Christopher only worked with Warner Brothers at the time.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers was so afraid of losing him to Paramount that they did this whole big deal with Paramount to be allowed to be part of Interstellar if they sold them half the rights to Friday the 13th, the new one that they were about to make, part of the South Park movie, and part of something else. Because they were just like, please don't take our boy.
They love Nolan there. They love him.
But the script that Jonathan actually had before Nolan came on doesn't have the ending, the Tesseract ending, doesn't have the ghost communication at all. It doesn't have Mr. Man, the Matt Damon character.
Yeah.
Instead, it has we're competing to get through the black hole before China, and the Chinese astronauts actually go through the black hole and leave robots there. And the robots build a gravity drive, and then the gravity drive sends us back home. It did not have as much family drama. Nolan came in and kind of added all of that sort of, and the big ending.
That's the thing I think we can all admit is Nolan knows his narrative. Nolan knows that the greatest part of sci-fi story is the emotional core, and you can see that too. And I think that's why there's so much setup in Interstellar. There's that hour long of like setup with Timothy Chalamet's character and with Cooper and Murray.
Yeah.
And there's that whole like you need to build it up and the documentary and the feeling of like Nolan has this feeling of just like you need to set everything up. You need to, and then it pays off really nicely.
Mhm.
The emotional core is like the best part of the movie, I think, and that's you would not get the best, in my opinion, you would not get Cooper's reactions and emotional catharsis at the end. You wouldn't get his catharsis of like crying when he's in the fifth
Mhm.
dimension plane, the Tesseract, of him crying and stuff. You wouldn't get that without the emotional core. If he was
No.
just stuck in there, if he was just like, or if he just went into a black hole, it would feel like a little bit nothing. And that's why I, in my notes, I wrote this as like, this is the modern 2001, A Space Odyssey. And I think at least, this is a modern like version of 2001 where like it's almost like what do we perceive as the new unknown, because in 2001 it's almost like what like it is also asking that question, but it's doing it in this like 70s way aesthetic, and the modern aesthetic is to have emotional narrative, is to have this emotional core of your film. And that's why I say it's modern 2001, is because it's so visually stimulating, it's so like this could be the future, but it also has that third act of this is the most insane thing ever. We are presenting to you this crazy idea, but I think it works more than 2001 because it has that narrative feeling of cohesion of Murr, like the characters of Cooper and Murr and their dynamic is great.
Yes, it's first of all, Christopher Nolan just went, yay. Because he was deeply inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey, and
That
that's
makes
the
sense.
reason this was shot on IMAX film and
You can see the shots too. You
yeah.
can like because so there's a different like you're a filmmaker too, so you know this, but like there's a difference between, in my opinion, there's sci-fi, and then there's science, and then there's like movies with sci-fi, and then there's like straight up fiction.
Hmm.
Sci-fi like would be like, so like Star Wars and Star Trek have like they really want you to show the idea of space travel through like the fantasy element of like horses running through the wind. It's the equivalent of what filming that. It's very technical, weird shots, different angles that you wouldn't see. They're out of the ordinary because it is fantastical. With Interstellar in 2001, this is why I draw the parallels, is because they're filmed very realistically. Especially their sci-fi shots are always locked down, and especially I think that's why I like Nolan. A lot of people like to talk about Nolan's like anti-visual effects stories and stuff, but there's a lot of visual effects. And I think the really cool thing about Interstellar is there's only four angles of the ship when they fly out and the lock off, that it's locked to like angles that you would see on fighter jets basically. And it's really neat, and that's a great thing too for VFX artists who need to like color in and then do the backgrounds, is because there isn't this weird thing that they have to change when they have to change color or weather or details. It's not that hard because it's a lockdown shot, it's not a moving shot, which is very nice. And I know a lot of it was practical, but even like the giant space station that was spinning, the beautifulness of that, shots like that are still like filmed like how NASA films things in space. And because he wants you to feel like the weight of everything. And I think that's really, that was the night, that's why I think it's 2001, because that spinning shot in 2001, or like a
Hmm.
lot of the space shots in 2001,
Yeah.
it's very tangible, and I think Nolan's
Yeah.
really good at that.
Well, part of the other reason they did on IMAX is because when NASA went into space and started filming inside the space stations, they took IMAX cameras and they had to learn how to light using IMAX cameras. So a lot of what we consider to be documentary footage is shot on that camera with that lens, with that style. So he was going for extreme realism. She shot all of the exteriors the way you would shoot a documentary, exactly as you're describing. The irony is a lot of them are scale miniatures, although I hesitate to use the word miniatures because they're like 1/16th space station scale, which means that they're still bigger than us.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, mounting the camera to these miniatures and making them interact as they would makes it so much easier to incorporate the special effects. It's so amazing. I would not say that this film is anti-special effects or anti-practical because there's almost an exact equal amount of them in, and it's so thoughtful when he does one versus the other. Like the entire spaceship in the water scene, they built a full-size spaceship. They raise it out
Yeah.
and put it down in the water so that the actors are interacting with that. The one practical effect that I did not know was practical and still makes me feel crazy to hear this. When Nolan went to film the scenes in the farm at the beginning, they're filmed in Calgary, which is where they also filmed Zack Snyder's Superman. And in talking to Zack Snyder, he said one of the biggest problems that he had was the cornfields needed to be CGI, and it didn't really look real. It was such a pain in the ass to get the actors to interact with, and it was incredibly expensive. But in Alberta, the altitude and the wind off the mountains make it impossible to grow corn. They just decided to grow corn anyway. And despite it all, the fucking corn grew. They grew 800 acres of corn that they used for all the shots. And it adds this like weird, eerie inappropriateness. We see people trying to grow a crop that shouldn't grow in a place during this. Like it just added the mountains in the background. There shouldn't be mountains behind corn. And then when they were done, they sold the extra corn and made a profit.
That's freaking awesome. I want interstellar corn.
Right?
I want interstellar corn. Dang. That's really neat. I think it's what I was going to say is like I think the debate between practical and VFX is silly. I think
Mm-hmm.
because they're both tools. They're both very specific art, and that's how I know you don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about film, and you're having a debate between practical or VFX, and it's like no, they're both tools. If I wanted, let's say, I wanted a spaceship to fly right behind me, right here, we could have a practical miniature set. We could have a Muppet, do a thing like that, or we could do VFX. It would be easier for me as the actor to interact with it, but it would be easier for maybe lighting and to make it look real with textures in the shadow. But maybe both too, and like spheres and stuff. And I think Nolan's very, very good at that. Even though a lot of people brag and say like, "Oh, he did this for real," and I make it a joke too. I joke around and be like, "Oh yeah, no, Nolan does everything for real. He actually shot people up into space to film this movie." Like I joked about that with Oppenheimer. I was like, "Yeah, he totally like dropped like nukes. He like Nolan got to drop nukes. He made Interstellar, so now he's allowed to drop nukes."
But you know what? Like that is a good joke though.
Yeah, yeah. Because some people actually believe that. Some people are nuts. But it's really fun. Interstellar's like the perfect blend of that VFX. But I think another thing that's good, especially cinematographer mindset, is everything's locked off and very like realistic in the like two-thirds of the movie. I'd say like 90% of the movie is very locked off and realistic. Is when you get to that like vortex, that fifth dimension, is when the camera finally starts doing these weird shots, these really intricate floating moving, and it creates. You're already a little overstimulated with the lights and the flash, and like it's very 2001 ending, like I keep saying, but it's like when that happens, it's almost like you can. It's that feeling you get of, oh, this is very strange. It's almost like in a horror movie when the camera goes and tilts, or like horror sound plays. It's that subconscious in your head that's, this is weird, but this is like something we can't understand, which he's really good. Nolan's, after that I went, god damn, this movie's kind of good. This movie's pretty fucking good. God damn it, this movie like is good.
So you're pointing to the scene that is probably the most impactful thing about this movie even existing. So like what's at the heart of what's so different about a movie like this, say, versus Contact, which is also written by Kip Thorne, it's based on his sort of stuff, is that like somehow the family drama, the intensity, the emotion is approached in such a realistic scientific human way that it doesn't act like, oh, we forgot about the sci-fi so that we could talk about the human drama. They interlace so perfectly. And when we get to the black hole part, the change in what we're seeing is we are actually seeing the visualization of the mathematical equations that we have to ourselves now as to what we think a black hole could look like. They actually, Double Negative, a company that was pretty much brought into existence to do this, created those visuals and created a program capable of creating those visuals. So we as human beings are going to have this amazing response to like, that is really what it's supposed to look like. So it's kind of funny to say like the most impressive effect is the one that seems real, even though it's not practical, but
Yeah,
it's as
yeah.
practical as we'll ever get to see it. Of course, obviously they did not include the Doppler shift, but that was because they just didn't want to. Nolan was like,
Do
I don't care about that. I don't want to do that.
yeah.
But like all the light and
Sometimes
the
you got to be like,
sand,
I don't
yeah.
freaking care. Yeah, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, it's a really well thought out space movie. Like, and I turned to like Joey after when I was talking to him about it after. I was like I love science fiction so much. I love Dune. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love all that stuff. And I was like, this was the one time where I was like, you know what? Maybe like realism in like science in like sci-fi movies is like okay, you know. I was like, it's that and like The Martian and Project Hail Mary,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe putting like smart science elements is okay because half the time I don't care. Half the time I don't care if it's real or not. I go to a movie because I know a movie's a puppet trick. I go for the magic show, you know. So it's like someone explaining to me this is the magic trip I'm doing while we're doing it is like not as fun to me.
Yeah.
So it's like but this was the time where I was like there's such a good narrative underneath it where I'm like this is good. I enjoy it. It's the emotional core. I think cuz a lot of movies like that try to outsmart you or try to like do something that's very realistic and real that don't have like a very good like narrative underneath it. Like I feel like fall flat to me personally.
Yeah,
So and this was the one time I was like damn this is or one of the few times I was like this is pretty good.
it's hard because like we obviously are going to assume most of the audience watching this does not have any background in theoretical physics
Yeah.
or astronomy or anything, but somehow there's an innate language that we have built in. I think really from the replications of images that we've seen in hard science already, and then the stuff where he uses the footage from Ken Burns's Dust Bowl documentary, where those are actual humans talking about the Dust Bowl. It was really interesting. Ken Burns was like, "You you can use my stuff, but you have to like ask the people again. They have to get like a new waiver
Yeah.
and like and all that stuff." So they went and did it really on the up and up, but it adds a layer of like, oh, that feels so real because that kind of did sort of happen.
Yeah, it was really beautiful and like the realism. I think that the documentary parts like add a weight to it too, and it also
Mm-hmm.
adds to the. I think the main science fiction or the main science element this entire movie is trying to pitch first is the time shift dilation. The time dilation is very and like once you see the documentaries and you realize that's the point in time he lands back in when he gets out you have to feel that and then you haven't even seen Mur yet you haven't even but you know like oh Mur's about to fucking die. Mur's on the edge of her life and it's really sad and then he's sitting there with his robot Taurus. Shout out Taurus, best robot ever, coolest robot ever. And my hot take, I think okay so that part is like the most like you could say is the most unrealistic part of the movie is the robot, and that's my favorite. I love that robot so much. That's my favorite part. I love that robot so much. He's so funny. He's like, I was like dying laughing every time, and he's so sweet. And he sacrificed. He shoots himself
Yeah.
into the Tars is like the best thing ever. But
I love Tars and
yeah,
Case because there's technically two of them, Tars and
Tars and
Case.
Case, yeah, Case is
Bill
cool too. But
Irwin does
yeah,
the voice. Yeah, I would argue against people saying that those are not realistic robots because they're mostly puppets. They actually
I saw
built
that. Yeah, they built
they're
them.
they're made of stainless steel. They're like 300 pounds. They're pneumatically driven. The actor Bill Irwin, who does the voice, is behind them doing the actions with them. Certain scenes, like they changed the way he walks in different terrain, which made me feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, he would struggle on certain terrain. They would have to account for like I would. There are so many other robots that are way less
I guess
realistic.
in the sense of like AI now, it's like no way AI would be that good. And it's like I think Taurus is just like I'm afraid of robots a little bit. I'm a little anti AI right now, but if they build a Taurus, I'd have him right now. He's so cool. He's so awesome. He's
Yeah, I love the fact that he is not particularly humanoid, but he feels we care for him when we like when
yeah.
Anne Hathaway when Brandt asks like should we ask him to do
Well,
that? Can we
he
send them?
reminds
It's like
you also. He's like, I am a robot.
I'm a robot.
You cannot tell me like I don't have any say in this, and it's almost like I think it's funny in that way. It's like
Yeah.
they don't. I think it's funny in in the way of Nolan has so many things to tackle that he admits that he doesn't want to tackle the fact of humanity within this robot. Everyone is just saying. That's why like sometimes saying yes to the adventure, right? In D&D stands, you got to say yes to the idea of like, yeah, yeah, this robot. Everyone just is chill with this robot. Everyone's just like, they're not debating if he's human or not, or if he's betrayal or not. And that's very like 2001. But it's like,
Also, like Douglas Adams, the paranoid android we get
yeah,
in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I really feel like Tars was that because he's such a
yeah.
comic relief character.
But it wasn't in the sense of like, oh, he's stupid. He's just he's the one who's like slightly sarcastic out of everyone. Everyone is
Yeah.
so and that's a note I wanted to talk about too. Is there's this mystique and aura around Nolan that I think a lot of directors wish they had. And I think a lot of young
Mhm.
directors wish they had, which is the everyone wants to work with you. When they work with you, they are willing to put their like not lives, but they are willing to give 110%. They are going to they love working with them. They like Anne Hathaway and like Matt Damon, they'll like run to stop to like they'll do anything to be in a Nolan film because Nolan has this like working with him apparently is so amazing. And I think that's so interesting is like he has this energy around him where everyone and you can tell everyone who is in this movie is giving 110% always. And that's what I really respect about Nolan movies is that they like everyone cares about like what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Particularly Anne Hathaway, who was
Yeah.
in the middle of Hatha-hate, where she couldn't get into any movies because her online existence was so everyone just wanted to hate her. I never really understood why, but like she was
Yeah, those
completely
weird like
toxic.
TMZ era of like the
Yeah.
internet. Yeah,
And
that
she
was
couldn't
bad.
like the fact that he put her in this movie despite Paramount saying that they didn't think it was a good choice is part of the reason why you will see her willing to go to bat for him because he kept her career kind of alive by putting her in this movie. Yeah,
And
I
that's
would. Sorry.
no, I agree with you.
No,
And
it's
I think that's
wonderful.
the thing that like a lot of directors, and I'm going to give a little bit of director wisdom. Yeah, 22, 23-year-old director wisdom here. Everyone want like I've met a lot of directors or like filmmakers who want to be like Nolan, right? And they think being like Nolan is being this very smart, sophisticated genius type. And it kind of just seems like Nolan is just like a very nice person to be around. And that's the first rule, especially if you want to, and with actors. I think at least like if you want to get good with actors and have that level of prestige where people like Wes Anderson or Nolan, where they're like, I will drop everything to be in a movie with you.
Mhm.
You have to be like you have to be a good person. You have to like at least give something in the sense of like you're going to challenge them, but you're going to be nice. You're going to be fair. You're going
Mhm.
to give them a new experience, of course. Like because working on a Nolan set
Mhm.
is apparently like we heard Tom Holland talk about it during the Spider-Man. Like he changed how he's filming Spider-Man 4 because of Nolan in the Odyssey. Is
Mhm.
when you're an influential person like that, you're not influential because you're a genius. You're an influence because you know of your character, and I think that's really important.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not like that. I can be a dick sometimes. It's like I think that's what we should all strive. We should all strive to be. If we want to be like a great director, we have to be a person that everyone wants to work with. You know?
It's a collaborative medium. You're
Yeah,
working with people. The directors who treat everyone like they're working for you, the director, they don't get as far, I find, because you have to ask people to do a lot and kind of give you a lot, especially in really emotional, intense scenes. Like, for example, when they were in Iceland doing the water planet,
yeah,
they were in glacial waters. That meant that like severe hypothermia could kick in. There were scenes where Hathaway's suit got cut open just a little bit, and so it filled with water. And she filmed for like 3 hours because she didn't want to interrupt anybody or make a scene because she was like, "This is a really big thing. I need to be on this." And she almost succumbed to hypothermia because she was just like, "I don't want to be a pain to anybody." And of course, as soon as they knew she was in any kind of distress, they
yeah.
took care of her.
Obviously,
Like they were not asking that of her, but there are extreme conditions that these actors are filming in.
yeah. And that's the thing is like the auteur genius can only take you so far. The mindset of being an auteur genius.
Yeah.
It's being a good person. It's knowing when your actors need to stop. I think I feel that. I felt that
Mm-hmm.
too. Like when
Yeah.
you're, especially when you're directing. When I directed my action feature film, is when you gotta look when people are like they are tired. They don't want to like they can't do any more takes. And I try to I kind of do the opposite. I do as less takes as I can. I'm like anti Fincher where I do it. I was like, if you can do it in one, that's okay. I can work with it. And then like I had someone like the star actress, her name's Kayla Garabedian, amazing actress, so professional. But she would like come up to me and be like, Riley, you can't one and done this. You need to give me more. And I'm like, okay. But like because I always learned, at least when I was filming, especially in high school, is that basically them being an actor and them showing up on set, that's a favor to you. That's not
Yeah.
you're not working with
Yeah.
millions of dollars. You're not working with like unions or anything. You're basically asking them a favor. And what do you do when you ask a favor? I feel like making a movie is the equivalent of asking someone to move out of your house. Making a movie, especially for like having extras on set or something, it's the equivalent of like being like, hey, can you help me move my couch out of my apartment?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's got to get it. Let's get it done fast. Let's get it done out of the way. Let's make it at least somewhat enjoyable, and I'll feed you after. I think
Mm-hmm.
movies should be treated like that. Like
Yeah.
obviously it's collaborative. Everyone wants to be there, but I think directors should have that bare minimum mindset before going in, and then if
Mm-hmm.
everyone else is enjoying it and everyone's having a good time, then you sink into like great performances. And I think like I was hearing Nolan talk about like this movie specifically and about like the performances of McConaughey, and he's like, you don't hear him like talk like Kubrick or like Tarantino where he like sits up and he's like you have to really get into it. He like Nolan very he's a very calm collected person, and when he
Yeah.
talks about McConaughey, he's like he's like I'll give him like a couple of minutes to like relax, set into the role, and before he's doing these things, and I just roll and I keep rolling because that's my job, and that's
Yeah.
his job. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think having that respect for actors is the reason this movie is like feels that great, and like especially if the performances are everyone's giving it 110, because when you respect your actors, your performance is great.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's two different types of directors. There's the director that wants to get on set and have this belief that something magical and really like the ones who always talk about authenticity, and they want to trigger an actor into having some sort of actual emotional experience and then record that, versus like, especially with something like we're talking about with Interstellar, this is shot on film. Every additional take is so goddamn expensive. So stuff like all of the stuff inside the space sets and the Tesseract scene at the end, a lot of the outer bits are CGI'd and iterated in or put on with projectors, but there's a physical set that they're working on. They didn't show up to that set when it was finished and try and shoot. They had rehearsals in a space that they could build quickly that would be similar, so that when they got to set, they had already worked through the blocking. You can't really get your actor to an emotional performance if they're dealing with wires and blocking for the first time. It's just not practical.
Yeah,
You
it,
should
it's
save that time.
it's really interesting. IMAX is such a hard like I'm a big fan of Sinners, so when Sinners came out, I like deep dived into the IMAX like world.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't care until I saw Sinners.
Mm-hmm.
But like IMAX is so interesting because especially with those cameras, you can only roll for about 15 minutes
Oh,
at a
yeah.
time. And then you have to
Yeah,
replace it, and it's a giant loud box. And I think that's what's Nolan's going to go down as like a pioneer for IMAX cameras because
absolutely.
he is pushing the limits of like what this camera can do. I just at least wish there were more screens to show IMAX,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because it is this amazing immersive like tech.
Mm-hmm.
I think also Nolan has also like he has revolutionized. He has created the IMAX look. Anything that's filmed on an IMAX camera looks like Nolan stuff because he is the person that has the grade and the
There's
camera look
that
of it.
blue grade, yeah.
It's that blue grade, and you see it a little bit in Sinners, and it's not bad. It's not bad. I think it's the one time in Sinners where it's like I oh shoot, this isn't this doesn't look like a Nolan film, and I hope the push of like even when Nolan retires, right? The push of
Mm-hmm.
IMAX keeps on going beyond that. Because right now
Yeah.
he's almost like so when people create programs, like let's say let's use like a program like Doom, like the original hardware of Doom. That's like revolutionary program, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people made Wolfenstein or other within the Doom engine, that's modifying it, that's adding it. In my belief, Nolan is with IMAX cameras is pushing is he is creating the base source code, and then everyone else who does IMAX films is adding the mods to them. And that's so interesting. It's so cool because he's like setting the bar for this is what this or like if we want to talk about video games, like if Rocksteady put out like GTA, GTA 5, like this is the baseline of what a AAA game should be, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, okay, let's do that, but in our own way. And
Mm-hmm.
like he's so awesome for like pushing the limits of IMAX. It's so cool. I just wish there were more screens. I have
Yeah.
a pitch. I have a pitch on how we can get more screens, but it's crazy and it's stupid and I think we should have more IMAX screens. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think it's the cost of the player is usually what's the prohibitive portion versus the actual space needed
Yeah.
is what I'm told. But yeah, we should have more IMAX screens. I can't watch movies in true IMAX. It triggers my migraine disorder, so I've never actually been able to do that. But I do really want to give some credit to the cinematographer here, who is Hoyt van Hoytema. I hope I'm saying that correctly or close. That's the cinematographer that Nolan uses now all the time. This is actually the first movie where the two of them worked together because his previous cinematographer wasn't available. He was going to go work on his own movie. And the reason why this movie only really works for me with that cinematographer is because that man is a Thor of a human being. Most of this movie is shot handheld. I wouldn't have known that. On the guy's goddamn shoulder. We're talking like a 90-pound IMAX camera. There's all this of him just walking around holding it. That is not something that everyone or really anyone else can do. So he is the physical reason Nolan was able to get shots that he wanted. So there's like, again, you can't just be the one thing like, oh, Nolan is IMAX. Like there are so
Yeah.
many people who help him make that like he's very good at finding the best of the best. And that's why you get these really great freaking shots.
I think there's only two people that I know that can like lift an IMAX camera like that. Because it's this cinematographer and the one from Sinners. She is so I don't know if you've seen muscles of her. She
Yes.
is ripped. And like to hoist up a 30, it's almost like a machine gun on your
Yeah.
shoulder, and because it's rattling and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's giant. You have to hold it like this. It is insane.
Yeah,
It's
makes
like
you angry at everybody who shoots their regular film like this. You're like, you're holding an iPhone, just
yeah,
hold it.
just hold it. It's. I'd argue it's tougher with smaller because smaller you don't have as much weight to hold.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes me really think about because like especially at the beginning where there's all these like these movement focus pole shots that are so insane, and and to think the IMAX was all in handheld, that blows my mind.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
insane.
there's some mount, but like 90%
Obviously,
is
yeah.
handheld. So like all of the water scenes, like you see Branch, you see them all running. The camera guy's running after them in the water, in the freezing water, in
It's insane.
waders. Do you have a favorite scene?
Favorite scene? Gosh, I think it's when Matt Damon tries to dock the ship on himself,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
then he starts. It's such narrative brilliance, and no, it's not brilliant. It's just it makes sense in my head. I was like, so Matt Damon's character, Dr. Mann, he loves ranting about how he's doing great for humanity and how he's saving humanity, and he's like,
He's supposed to
this
be the
is
best of us.
well, he's like, this isn't the he says his last lines are like something like, this isn't about your daughter, this isn't about me being a coward, and then he like gets shot off, and then like I think it's just the one time we see like anything of like destruction. We don't see that much destruction in the movie. I guess we see the explosion a couple minutes before, but to see that ship that they've been living on for like years, and to think about that, and then to see just it get kind of get blown up, and then like explode, and you see the look on Anne Hathaway and Matthew McConaughey's faces, you kind of hear feel the sense of they are never getting home. They are it's that feeling you get at the end of Alien for a bit. It's that feeling of, especially, I also love he loves the idea of in space no one can hear you scream. You can't hear the explosion, you can't hear the destruction, you just hear
Yeah,
silence. And I think that it's beautiful. It's
yeah.
narratively beautiful because Matt Damon's character is a coward and he's preaching about not being a coward, and then he dies a coward. And I love the explosion in there too. I love that. I it's one that sticks with me a lot. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's a great character to have added in by Nolan because we're talking about how like there's this emotion and science and how this movie is blending them together, and Dr. Mann is a great example of trying to not save humanity but save the species and removing the humanity or the human aspect of what we're trying to save. It's like just sending us out into space as more of a virus versus like trying to save what we consider humanity. So it's very aptly put together. I like that scene a lot too.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's so weird because it's like I think The Martian came out around the same time, right?
And he's so good in he's a
And
good guy in
and
The Martian.
he's like and Matt Damon just being like a total piece of shit, evil bad guy. I think it's also the movie is long. I will say the movie is a
Yes,
long,
it is
slow
very
burn.
long.
So when
It's like
shit
two
just
parts.
happens and happens and happens and happens, that's what you love. What I love about slow burn horror movies is because once you get to like, there's a second where like something blows up and then things just keep happening, and I love when a movie starts to ramp up like that. So when a movie,
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, that's when the movie really starts like, okay, we're going, we're rolling, we're
Well,
going
there's
fast.
almost an irony as we narratively approach the black hole.
Yeah,
The story starts to compress in its pacing, and
it's like
I hope to think
falling,
that that's
everything's falling
yeah,
apart. It's
and it just
beautiful.
goes straight into that shot with at the end. The music is undoubtedly a huge portion of what makes this a successful film. So we have to talk about it a little bit. Obviously,
Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer, because it's Nolan, they work together so well. But the interesting thing I think about this movie is Nolan so very much wanted to have a sci-fi film that did not have a sci-fi soundtrack. That when he told Zimmer that he wanted him to score this movie, he didn't tell him what this movie was about. He didn't give him anything but one page with some dialogue, and all of the movie's music is made without that. He's just made it himself. It includes a lot of organs, church organs, filmed or recorded in their actual churches because he wanted an instrument that was so human it needed breath to make noise. Like how did you do that, you son of a bitch? It's so perfect, and you didn't even movie.
Zimmer's freaking nuts. He's like,
I love
I
him
think
so
Zimmer,
much.
Ludwig von Grossman, Those two are like my favorite composers ever. It's the thing too is like because I've listened to Hans Zimmer make like knowing it's a sci-fi because he
Hmm.
made Dune. He made the Dune soundtrack, and the Dune
Yes.
soundtrack is so. And I think that's the difference between Dune and Interstellar is because Dune's score is very. You can tell Hans Zimmer read this when he was 16. This book means a lot to him. This is just something
Hmm.
that's been this Dune's score is representative of culture, a culture that doesn't exist, and it's very interesting. Interstellar is baked in the mystery. Interstellar is not baked in culture; it's baked in mystery and the unknown, and the score is reflective in that. And honestly, keeping him in the dark about that is probably the best idea to like make something very weird and strange. And I think the only person who could do that properly is Hans Zimmer.
Seriously, it's so evocative. There are scenes that, like, obviously the don't let him go, Murph scene
Yeah,
is like you just hear the music at the same time you hear the intensity of that performance. I saw somebody put that sound on top of a cat in front of a glass door, banging on the door, and I was just like, "Wow, I'm crying still."
it's he is a beautiful musician. He's a beautiful composer. I think there's so many amazing composers in Hollywood. I think that don't get as much recognition as
Mm-hmm.
like the big three in my opinion, which
Mm-hmm.
is John Williams, Hans Zimmer, and right now Ludwig.
No Danny Elfman in just kidding.
Elfman's there too, but it's like it's the strange feeling of he's the best for a reason. It's
Yeah,
like there's
yeah.
no other there's no and that's the thing. It's hard to talk about like something like Nolan or like Zimmer or everyone who worked on it is it's just like it's good because they're good. You know, it's like we
Yeah.
can't like sometimes with like success with like cult classic movies, we can talk about like how did this get popular? Where was the culture? Where was everything?
Mhm.
No matter when. The funny thing about Interstellar is this could be dropped anywhere and it would have been received the exact same. And I think that's how I feel about a lot of Nolan movies is that he works in this way where it's like he a lot of his stuff does feel like timeless. It's very interesting. Yeah.
With a sci-fi movie, and 2001 is another great example of that. It's very hard to do something that's so special effects or based and not have it become simply dated because of the way it was filmed or the need to have it be in space, but it really does achieve that, and the soundtrack is definitely part of that. Have you seen the documentary about Hans Zimmer?
I have not. I do know fun facts about Hans Zimmer. I know a lot of little. He's the keyboardist in the for the song "Radio Killed" or "Video Killed the Radio Star." I know that.
Yes,
I
yes,
know
yes,
that.
and he did the
And,
Lion King soundtrack as well.
and he made the Kung Fu Panda score.
Yes. Well, there's a documentary about him and his life now and how he's touring as a like rock musician and doing his pieces to sold out stadiums. And you get to meet him and talk to him and he has that same exact thing that you're describing in interviews with Nolan where like we hold Zimmer on such a pedestal because he is a genius. It is undoubtable that the work that he is putting out is next level. It's not just a work ethic, it's an understanding of what he is doing at a base level that other people are just not operating at.
Yeah.
But when you talk to him, he's just this dude who's so into music and loves playing instruments and loves playing the guitar and is super into performing for audiences and just this schmo. And it's nice to see someone who is like that succeed because you're just like these good people.
Yeah, I mean, I there's a lot of people who do think they're geniuses, but I personally don't think like a great artist doesn't think themselves as like some fucking mess. I mean, they might joke and say, "Yeah, I'm a fucking mastermind. I did this." Whoa. But like I don't think someone who is like a genius is someone who like they or that's not the goal, you know. To be like an artist or like a filmmaker or whatever, you know, anything in your life, it's being like a genius smart person that's outsmarting and outdoing everyone is that shouldn't be the goal, and that's not the way to achieve that. If you want that status, you just make what you want, and then hopefully people like it, or you know people don't like it, and then you it's okay, you know. And
Hmm.
the cool thing about Nolan is that he connected with so many people, and it's
Hmm.
I think that's I'm gonna tie it back to Joey because he was telling me why he loves this movie so much, and he was like, I saw it for the first time on cable. It was so amazing. It was like I kind of wanted to get into like learn about astrophysics and maybe major in it, and
Yeah.
he didn't end up majoring in it, but it made me think about all the kids who saw Interstellar, Project Hail Mary, The Martian, all these, or hell, even 2001, and it makes them yearn for space. It makes them think about it in such a
Hmm.
cool, positive light of like, hey, these movies are better NASA propaganda than any NASA propaganda can ever do. Some kids look up in
Yeah.
the stars and they want to go
Hmm.
up there, and I think that's so beautiful for a movie to do that, and
Hmm.
for to influence a lot of people and make people believe that they can go up there and they can strive to be that. Then that's all a movie is designed to do, and that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. And I want to just take a moment here because we are glazing this film. It is a good film. We like it a lot. I give it 4.5 stars because there are a few things that are not my standard of certain things. So let's
Are we
just take a
critiquing this movie
second.
now? We're
Let's
critiquing.
take a second to turn to a couple of things. And this is the point I asked you, what's your favorite scene?
Yeah.
What's your least favorite scene?
Oh, shit. I mean, it's like there's scenes where it's like it makes sense. It like that's the thing with movies. I'm like, there's never a time unless if it's a movie that's like so bonkers and then it doesn't matter where you're like, yeah, that makes sense, but I don't
Or at least
inherently.
aspect. It doesn't have to be a specific scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Casey Affleck. So Timothy, I forgot his name. So it's Timothy
Timothy
Chalamet
Chalamet and
that
Casey
turns
Affleck.
and he grows into Casey Affleck.
Hmm.
Crazy casting, by the way.
Yeah.
The idea, the subplot of Casey being abusive to his wife and his child that died and refusing for care, I feel like wasn't focused on enough, and the parts that, in my opinion, it should have just been cut out entirely. Because if you wanted to add that part, then we should have established that while we were establishing stuff at the beginning. But I guess, but that's a critique that's like I understand why people like that part. I understand why people don't. It's not for me, I guess. I don't love that part, especially when it's like it does. I feel it as it kind of gets repetitive of, hey, you need to like take care of your kids, and he's like, fuck no, and then he goes, okay, I'm gonna burn this down, and then I there's this cut of the guy who played Venom slash Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3. I forget the actor's name.
Toby Maguire. Topher Grayson.
Tougher Grayson, and he's like he keeps on saying to her, "Come on, get in the car. Come on, get in the car." And I'm like, "What why are we doing what
Get to the
like get
chopper.
to the shot." Those were
Yeah.
parts where I was like, "Okay, I think Nolan is just like or not Nolan, or it's just any this is
There's
just
like
really
a
just
drama that's we're supposed to feel like, oh, on the
yeah,
other
that
side,
I didn't
will
I
she
guess that
stay
didn't feel
long enough? They needed to create that question of, is she gonna get the information from him? And of
yeah.
course she gets the information from him, because if she doesn't get the information from him, people don't go into the whole thing is a
Yeah.
time continuum. If it doesn't work, it never worked. I agree. I have always found, and this is where people want to critique Nolan the most, his ability to write women and character motivation is a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, so this guy, Matthew McConaughey, which we can believe, I guess we still like, even though he spends a period of time trying to explain to his 8-year-old daughter, like, whose mother just died. I'm sorry, I need to be fulfilled as a human man, so I'm gonna go on this trip and I need you to forgive me and understand that, even though you're like not even 12 yet. So
Yeah.
that's a lot. But also, he has 2 fucking kids. And if you watch this movie, he seems to really only care about one of those kids, right?
Yeah. He only
He
cares
doesn't
about one.
scream both. He's always screaming about Murph. And it's like, but dude, you had 2 kids.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on. And then at the end, this is my least favorite scene. The whole movie, we're trying to get back to Murph. He gets back to Murph. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds where she's just like, I knew you'd come back because you said you would, but I'm dying now. So go away.
Yeah, you should go and then go find that person you low key liked, I guess. Like, cause that's what, cause he at the end he wants to fly and go find I
Yeah,
forget her name. Anne Hathaway's
Brandt.
character.
Yeah, was that
Brandt.
like a setup for a sequel or something? It felt a
But
little
it was
coda.
weird. I was like, I didn't really feel their relationship. Their
No.
and that was weird. I'm not a woman. I can't speak on any of it, right? But I think also Nolan isn't a woman, and he can't. I think it's trying to get really well written characters out of a guy is that's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's really hard.
See,
It's
sometimes it feels like he doesn't even know a woman.
yeah.
Like,
We can talk about.
she's
I think that's with a lot of great directors. You want to talk about Lucas? You talk about Lucas and the Attack of the Clones. I've never met a woman who talks like that in my
touche.
life. Like
Touche.
I think, yeah, it's women. It's really hard to rate. I think, my opinion at least. I coming from a guy who makes movies with women in them. I find it very hard to rate women. Mainly because it's like I always have to check with women and be like, hey, does this make sense? Does this
Mm-hmm.
like I try to do that sometimes, and then other times it's like, well, this is the story I'm trying to tell, and it could be regardless of gender.
Please include us in your stories.
Yeah,
Don't not put us there at all.
Yeah, but so it's like it's this weird debate of like I think
Yeah.
I wish Nolan wrote women better, but also I also wish like I for some reason I wish like he could like figure it out. But even if he doesn't figure it out, I think it's valid to critique it. You know, I think
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
yeah,
if he
it's
can
valid.
understand astrophysics and like astro-theoretical physics and make
Yeah,
a black hole movie, he can figure out how we talk.
I also think like it's a fault of it's because the fault of the Anne Hathaway ending, right? Isn't I don't think it's a problem of like specific character writing. It's a specific problem with narrative and pacing. All I think, in my opinion, a huge Joseph Campbell fan. I'm a huge
Yeah.
I'm very big on story's king. Story is king. Monoculture, everything. Yeah, and I believe the fundamental issue is not the like. I think there could have been a really cool established ending where maybe we do have more of a connection with Anne Hathaway's character, which makes that feel good. Or maybe we can like cut out some scenes where like, you know, McConaughey is just retreading his beliefs, you know, and then we can have Murr more in there. And it's very tough because he has so much on his plate to write about that he almost like forgets about his own characters. And it sucks that it's women too. It sucks that on top of that it's women, because I know a lot of movies that have pretty well written female characters, like that are written like Obsession. I think is really good, like I'd
Mm-hmm.
argue really good perspective of a woman being fucking like a metaphor for a soul. But it's really it's kind of sad to see Nolan not do that. It's kind of sad, but also Nolan is like and I think that's why Nolan has cultivated this like film bro audience, is that
Yes.
when you
Yeah.
try and that's why he's fucking adapting the Odyssey, is
Well,
that
yeah. Sorry.
the
That's
strong female characters in the Odyssey are tough to find too. It's
yeah.
weird. It's like so I don't know if it's like a greater issue of Nolan, or maybe we need more stories about women in space.
Could be
Maybe
both. You know.
maybe
Could be
both, you know,
both. You
because like
know.
if we like we can critique Nolan and be like Nolan should do this, but I don't know if Nolan will actually listen to us. So maybe we should just go down the road of supporting female artists to make space movies. I don't know. I'm rambling now.
No.
I'm like trying to think this through. I don't know
But
what you
you
think.
bring up a very interesting point, which is that, like, often with Western movies, our ending needs to be in a satisfying format for the audience and less a service of the story. So I'm not sure if that's the ending that Nolan wanted or was pushed or pressured into, because I'm sure audience members are like, but what about Brandt? But what happened to her? And shouldn't the guy wind up with a girl?
Yeah.
And also, there is a lot of parallels between this movie and the story of the Odyssey. We have this character who leaves home for longer than they intended and gets into all these different like problems just trying to ultimately get back home. And when he gets back home, so much time has passed that, like, how does that hero come back into the world? And like, Cooper was never meant to settle down. So having it end with him being like, and now I'm here, is also unsatisfying. So I just, my complaint is that I wish there had been a more substantial meeting of those characters again, as opposed to just a like.
I think it's also a weird fundamental issue of like Brant's character. Her motivation quickly shifts from the plan B and the idea of like restarting the earth and saving the earth, and that's her motivation, quickly changing to, oh, I want to go see Wolf. I
I
want to go
love this guy. This
I
guy I
love this
liked.
guy. I love this guy I like. And I think that like because even in my head I was like, oh, they're gonna cut to her and she found Wolf and now they're living on society. And then they're like, no, she's alone. You gotta go save her. And
Gotta go save
I went, what wouldn't it be I'd arguably say, wouldn't it be more satisfying if they got to make their own colony? They got to do their thing. And
because
maybe you can go say hi, maybe you can go visit, and that's a good way. That's a cool thing to say. Be like,
yeah.
"Hey, I'm alive." That's cool.
Yeah, because we're
Like,
trying to talk about how love transcends time. And so Anne Hathaway isn't just this woman who's got a crush who's obsessed with. It's another example of how Murph and Cooper and her guy, like, they reach through time and space to draw each other back to each other no matter what the obstacle. But he gets to her and she finds a grave.
yeah, it's weird. It's really strange. I think you can say this with a lot of Nolan like female written characters too. Like
Mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer's like that too. And it's
Yeah,
like,
Oppenheimer's probably the worst.
well, it because I think that's what actually happened. Like, it was terrible. Like Oppenheimer was not a good guy.
Touche, touche.
But it is strange. It is very strange. Like the female written characters are really. The more like the more you bring it up, the more I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, wow, that was not
We're just
that.
broad strokes.
Yeah, it was broad strokes, huh? And I'm like,
Yeah.
and now it's that weird show again where Riley tries to fit like say if only and how to make this movie better. I do that a lot. So after movies that have like glaring problems, I'll be like, man, if only they did like this twist or like this little change, maybe that would have made it better. But then I run the movie back in my head. I'm like, would that make that better? Would that make? And it's I think that's the most lacking part, especially like God, it's also the same problem with like Batman, like in that Batman, The Dark Knight Rises too,
Mm-hmm.
with like Talia. Yeah, now the more I'm thinking about it, the more I am just realizing Nolan is
It's
just
like a
really
glass
bad.
shattering moment for
I
you, like,
I'm
oh
not,
no.
and I didn't even hold Nolan into a high like a super high regard. I thought he was cool, but it's the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, he is not passing the Bechdel test.
No. I said glass shattering for a moment when, like, there's a little crack in a thought that I had,
And then it
and
goes,
then it goes, and I realize
yeah.
how that thought iterates through all these other things, and all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, there is a shift in my vision. Yeah.
It is strange. I mean, I put a lot of for context, I made a space movie like in high school. It's so bad. Oh my god. But it's a space movie with like leading women and like like it's got like lesbians in it. I often refer to it as my lesbian space romance movie cuz and it's not because it was like I wanted to write like lesbians. It was more of just like I wanted to write something that was like about like someone who's grieving with like the world telling you that you're wrong, and that was the best way I could like write it
Mm-hmm.
at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
and whenever I do write like like women, it's hard. It's really hard because it's like we're all the same. We're all humans, and we all react to it in our own unique ways. But then there are things that are so instinctively women's stories or male stories, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard as I think as like a guy to write something that like still resonates with women, I guess, or like resonates with people that feels realistic and feels like you're not like I don't try to like object people. I don't want
Yeah.
to object people. Especially like you've seen ISO, right? You've seen
Yeah.
like you saw ISO, and it's in the sense of like I do have this female lead in it, and she's like going through a lot, but like there'd be times I'd be writing it and I'm like, I don't want this to be like, oh, we're dunking on this woman and she sucks and she like I wanted her to grow and have her own problems and break out of it, and it was good. But I also didn't want it to be like, it's this weird fine line where it's like, okay, we have to have her have problems, but we also have to have her like, but we can't make her perfect because that would
Mm,
be weird too.
yeah.
It's a very, I see it as a fine line, but I think that's a fine line with everything, with every character you
Yeah.
write. But I think I feel there's more pressure. There's more pressure to write something more good when it's someone you don't, you won't aren't are maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's so outside of your ability to understand.
Yeah,
I think that it's always good to know that no script needs to be solely written by anyone, and you can
yeah,
always show it to someone who has had that experience to get feedback. But also, let us remember the fact that one of the greatest female characters in space story, Ripley, was simply a name change on a script that already existed. That was just a male character that they changed into a female character. You could just write your woman the way you would write your man, but that in and of itself is its own
yeah.
disingenuous
That's
issue.
its own
So
issue
like
too. It's like
nothing is perfect.
nothing is perfect, and it is really hard. It's like this weird thing
Yeah.
of like, well, I guess, oh shit. And I'm not saying that like, oh, Nolan should not like apologize. Nolan should probably feel a little bad about like ending his movie like that. But it's like, I think, man, it's so weird for like, I think Nolan maybe should get better at writing women, but then on the other hand, I think us forcing someone to change is never going to happen, and maybe we should just support someone else who's making like a better movie,
So
you
we
know?
let Nolan make a Fast and the Furious, and
Yeah.
then we get someone else in the chair. You're right. Why do
We
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 keep trying to force new directors
we get
into
Patty Jenkins to finally make her Star Wars movie. That would have
something,
been
you
awesome.
know?
That Starfighter movie. That would have been sick.
Yeah, I do have to admit, with we're talking about all those YouTubers who are coming up now, and they're
Yeah.
like the Corey Baker, everybody. Those are all the same age, same genuine ethnicity. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
20-year-old white guys who are getting to make movies. That's what we've been doing this entire time.
Yeah, it's also like people have been glazing my generation like crazy. It's weird, but it's like, oh, this 20-year-old person or like a bunch of the YouTube is cool. But right now, it's Hollywood's gonna learn the wrong lessons from it, and they're like, "Oh, we need every YouTuber is gonna make a horror movie." And as much as I love horror, and I've made horror before, I'm kind of shifting more towards action movies, and I'm like, well, where's my place in this world? And I
Yeah.
like, there's a post you posted on Instagram that was really important too. Is like, a lot of great directors didn't make their movies till they were 30 or 40, and it's like, you shouldn't, like, no one's a prodigy. There's no such thing as a film prodigy. People make thousands of works before they ever get noticed, and it's so weird to like, because like there's no the only reason YouTube, I say pro to YouTube, is that you can find like that one person. You can find a person who does your niche and it fits your niche. So like, I think, and that's what's so awesome about indie YouTube, is that you can find like cool independent films made by like women or men or like people of LGBTQ or like specific genre bashing, and it's really cool. Shit, I'm just rambling and I completely forgot what I was saying. But it's God, now I'm thinking about like how like a Greta Gerwig movie, like space movie, would be cool. Or
Yeah.
like any other,
Do you feel like Greta Gerwig writes men well?
like, I've seen Barbie and Little Women. Those are the only two Greta Gerwig films I've seen.
Yeah, those are
And
very specific men. They're like not really
also
realistic.
her mumblecore, mumblecore short films. But I that's the thing, is like, I think Greta Gerwig actually does a pretty good job. You know, there are men like that out there. Like, there are men
Yeah.
like Ken, pre switch and post switch. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's really positive actually that like women get to write men in any way you want, you know. And
Yeah.
well, I think about it like this, right? There's how many years of film history and of magazine history and book history, and there's been countless stories written to objectify women. You can objectify a man, it's fine. You can objectify a woman, you shouldn't, but that's kind of how our society works. And like, regardless of objectification, if you don't want to watch it, then that's a okay. If you do like it and it is a little objectifying, that's okay too. at least know that it is objectifying, but you like it anyways, you
Well,
know?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious is very
Oh
male
yeah.
objectified. That's why I think it would be funny for Nolan to just lean all the way in and
Might
go
as well.
full,
Might as well.
go, is it the guy who did Michael Bay kind of
Yeah.
style, where like glistening, hot, musty, like, ooh, all these guys are covered in oil, but the story is really for guys.
Yeah, it's weird, and I think I think what's really neat about Greta is that she's like doing a really cool thing where there's a lot of stories and there's a lot of perspectives that should be
Mm-hmm.
brought out, and that
Yeah.
are like female perspective.
Yeah.
Like I saw a movie that I didn't love. It was called The
Mm.
Bride. It was directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yep. Yep. I've seen
Yeah,
that.
I didn't. For example, I didn't love that movie. I think
Mm.
putting words in Mary Shelley's mouth felt weird. I was already sold on the 1920s, 30s aesthetic of the movie. I was sold on Bonnie and Clyde Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just that aspect I didn't like. But also, I can't invalidate her perspective of that rage of being a woman. I
Mm.
can't invalidate that. And so it's like, I get that she was trying to make like almost like a Joker movie for
Mm.
women, and like
Mm-hmm.
you should revolt. You should have this thing that leads to this movement that leads to anarchy, just to get women's rights leads to anarchy is kind of the point of the movie, which
Yeah.
is a little strange. But also, if that's how you feel about it, then hell yeah. I know people on Letterboxd who logged it in and said this is an amazing movie because it's catharsis.
Yes.
And like the same catharsis a Fast and Furious movie brings to a guy, maybe The Bride is the same thing, or like Frankenhooker, or like all these crazy weird movies, or
Yeah.
like have you seen the female Joker movie that it's like a fan Joker film about
The
like
People's Joker?
the people's Joker?
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Yep.
that's a perfect example of like people taking their identity into their own hands and making a statement about it. And
Yeah.
like some people really like statement piece movies, other people don't. It's whatever. And I think every movie is actually inherently a statement, but I think it's so beautiful that there is so many movies out there, and there's so many. And if like maybe if like we could find it, we can find movies, we can find somewhere out there. There's someone who made a low budget version of Interstellar, and but it fixes all the problems that Interstellar had, but maybe it has all the problems that Interstellar
It
fixed.
doesn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so beautiful. That's what's beautiful about movies is if the problems about Interstellar we can totally find fixed in like any other movie. I think maybe.
Yeah. And that's what I want to see YouTube. I want Hollywood to learn the lesson that, like, oh my God, there's so many people out here with stories. Please pick some new fucking people. Also, they don't need that much money. If you're spending tons and tons and tons on 2 movies a year, you can buy 30 YouTube movies.
Yeah.
I always throw this stuff in the episode. This movie cost $165 million to make. It made $764 million in its initial release, which is almost 5 times as much. So it was worth it to make this movie. That being said, like, how many obsessions could you make with $165 million? It was a $10 million movie. You could make 100. You're like, just anyway.
KT,
I
that
hope
money,
that they
that
would.
number, like I can't conceive that number. I
I
can't.
know, right?
No one can see. I think you're a liar if you can conceive $100 million, or you're a rich person. So, and in that case, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But like, if you can like comprehend $100 million, let alone 700 million, I just like that's what's so weird about like people like filmmakers like nowadays is like you want the $100 million movie. I don't know what I would do with $100 million. The beautiful thing about being an indie filmmaker at least is that you have $0 and you can make stuff that looks like $100 million
Yeah.
and you can outshine it, and that's what YouTube is great at.
Yeah.
That's what's so awesome about it. But oh my god, money is evil and everyone should have it. It's so it's so like messed. It's so
That's why that Russian movie that I watched, Kinzaza, was
was
so interesting because it is about capitalism and it was filmed on such a smaller budget that
Yeah.
you're like, oh, what a fascinating commentary to make. All right, so as we draw to an end, this has been a really great conversation. I just want to ask, would you recommend this film to other people? And is there a caveat where you're like, obviously, I wouldn't recommend this to a 3-year-old?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this to a 3-year-old, maybe a 4-year-old, but I don't know. That's if they're really behaved. If they can sit for I'd say anyone who can sit for 3 hours and likes space, likes the video game Portal, like that's
Yeah.
the two bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like if you like space, 3 hours and just like a grand and just like that's it. In movies, you'll like Interstellar. You won't feel like your time is wasted. You'll feel like your time was spent, but it was like engaging 3 hours. I'd recommend it to like my friends. I'd recommend it to someone who'd like never like seen a space movie
Yeah,
before.
as would I. I would. It's not.
I was like, if you want like what a space movie is supposed to be, and they've only seen like Star Wars or something, like I'd be like, watch Interstellar, watch the first Star Trek movie, watch
Mm,
2001 if you want, and if you want to go scary, watch Event Horizon. Those might,
yeah.
yeah, those are like if you like what I think a space movie is. Obviously, we throw Alien in there, but I'd say Aliens for a different.
Space horror.
That's more horror, yeah.
Yeah, if we're going aliens for action, but those are when you're like, okay, so now we've got space. Let's do genre in
Let's
space.
do genre, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a great introductory to a space movie because it is so engaging in that humanity level. Even though it is such hard science sci-fi, it is still very accessible. And as much as I love 2001: A Space Odyssey, that is a hard one for people to sit down and totally grasp and
Who
get
knows?
interested in um, when that's your
Maybe in 20
first.
years, maybe in 20 years, this is going to be like the most impossible movie to watch. I'm worried about that. It's like people, you know how people talk about 2001? It's like, this is so long and boring. I'm worried about Interstellar. Like, people are going to be like, this is the hardest movie to watch ever. That's going to
What
happen in
was
20 years.
What was interesting about the way that I watched that Russian film is that it came to me as 2 episodes. It's
Oh,
not. It's a
okay.
2-hour movie, but somebody cut it in half right in the middle where it makes the most sense to cut it. I think that if you were somebody who was like, say you had sciatica and you could not actually sit for 3 hours for the movie like this, you could absolutely cut this into 2 episodes where it's like 120 and then 130 because right when they decide to launch the spaceship and to go into space is 120. It's an hour and 20 minutes in, right in the middle of the movie. You could just stop right there, and it narratively feels a little closed, and you could start it as another episode the next day or a little bit later, very easily, in my opinion.
Yeah. If maybe there should be like a website that does that. There should be like a site that there should be like a website or like an application that's like I will chop up your movies into episodes because I do know people who only watch TV and that would help them like crazy.
I do. I've started to realize I have a lot of friends with medical conditions, and so I'm trying to find these places. Maybe
Yeah.
we should make this website. This could be our big deal, our money
The,
maker.
the big website of this is how that's called Reddit.
Is
It's
it
called making a subreddit right there.
stophere.com? Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up for this episode?
Let's see. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I've wanted to be on
Absolutely.
here for so long.
I'm so glad
It's
to
so
have you.
cool. I'm
Yeah.
so happy. This is really cool. If you want to follow me, I guess am I plugging? Am I plugging?
Throw
Is
it
it plug time?
again.
Okay.
All this stuff is going to be in the liner notes. So if you're hearing what he's about to say and you're like, "Let me grab a piece of paper," you'll
Yeah.
also see this written.
Okay, so if you liked my ramblings and you liked me being weird and silly, follow me on Instagram. It's called Riley_is_cabbage. That's where I post all of my funny memes and all of my projects. So that's where you get the first update. And then if you want to see whatever the hell I was talking about movie wise, youtube.com Cabbage Boy is my YouTube channel. I have 14 short films if you want to watch those if you're bored. I have a documentary film in there. I've got some like YouTube videos if you want to watch that and some video essays and then like my feature films coming out soon. But yeah, so if you want long form content, go to Cabbage Boy. If you want short form content, go to Riley_is_cabbage. I'm starting to act now. I might be an actor soon. I did fight choreography. I'm doing fight choreography a
I
lot.
saw
So
that in Knuckle
yeah,
Sandwich. That was great.
Thank you. I'm trying to be an actor. I thought it was fun. I didn't worry so much. But yeah, I'm making videos. I'm
Do it.
making movies. I'm always making
Sweet.
something. So if you're bored and you want to check it out, please check it out. Or not. It's okay. You know?
No, if you have listened to 2 hours of us talking and you don't want to check it out, I swear to God, I'll come find where you live. I swear. I do have to ask before we go because I accidentally was talking to Josh DeForge on the podcast when I was on with him for the first time. And I was talking about you and I was like, Riley
Yeah, you called me Riley Cabbage, right?
Cabbage?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I didn't know. And I even said to him, I don't think that's his last name.
That's
Why
not.
is your handle Cat? Obviously, it's not. I do know that now.
So my last name's Cosby. I'm Riley Cosby, and it starts with a C. And when I was 13, I was making my YouTube channel, and there was an artist called Cavetown that I love, Cavetown, and their handle was Lemon Boy, and I was like, well, I think Cabbage Boy would be funny, and also I had like verbal dyslexia. I had a hard time to like saying words as a kid, and so I'd like say like cabbage and think garbage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost saying like I'm garbage, but I'm cabbage. So it's Riley. So it's like a bit. It's like and Cabbage Boy is like a is kind of like
Good
a
handle.
it's a
It's
good handle.
memorable.
And I've never and I was like I should change it. I'm making movies now, and then I went, well, I can't think of anything better. So that's and it's funny. So and
Mhm.
my profile picture on YouTube is me getting thrown in like it's my face getting hit with a cabbage. It's like my friend full force threw a cabbage in my face, and
Beautiful.
we filmed it in
Beautiful.
slow mo, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like the PlayStation handles when you sign up because you're a kid and you got
Yeah,
PlayStation, and that's your freaking handle for forever. They don't tell you that. You get stuck
I
with it.
that it's my gamer tag. It's my like honestly, that's fine. I like if my production company is my gamer tag, I'm fine with that. That's
Yeah,
a okay
that's
with me.
pretty good. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful chatting with you. We could go for another hour easily. Again, if you don't go check out his stuff, I'll find you. I know where you live.